Okay, welcome everyone. I'll open up the regular council meeting Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Okay, item 2.1, November 4th, 2025 agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? If there's not, can I get a motion?
To the chair.
Go ahead.
I move that the December 2nd, 2025 agenda be accepted as prepared.
Awesome. By show of hands, is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Item 3.1, November 18th, 2025 regular council meeting. Are there any edits? If there aren't any edits, who would like to make a motion?
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
I move that the minutes of the November 18th, 2025 regular council meeting and November 19th, 2025 and November 20th, 2025 council budget deliberation meetings be accepted as presented.
Great, that's item 3.1, 3.2. Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. We have a delegation tonight. Item 4.1, RCMP. Sergeant Payne, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the invite back. I'd like to speak to you guys about the Q2 crime stats and I guess some of the things that have been happening since then. I know Inspector Weir has forwarded out some reports to you guys with regards to the RCMP letter. Just interesting thing to point out. The newly appointed Assistant Commissioner Wayne Nichols, if some of you guys aren't aware, he used to be the district officer here in southern Alberta, and specifically at the Airdrie building. And then this week, a new district officer has been named. So Superintendent Walker will be joining us. He's coming out from E Division. So he's going to be our big boss here in Airdrie. And then Superintendent Rick Janney, he's still in place, and he's running the show until Chief Superintendent Walker shows up. With regards to the provincial policing report, I'm aware also that there was crime stats, so I'll speak to some of the crime stats here in a little bit more depth in a few minutes. The one thing I kind of dislike about the stats that were sent out to you is it's from January, September, so the numbers are a little bit higher than the actual Q2 stats, but we'll speak to the specific Q2 stats here in a few minutes. So in the provincial policing report, obviously we worked on some rural crime priorities. Number one being the crime reduction. As you're aware, we use Project Arrow to monitor subjects in the rural areas that are on conditions. We try to keep a tab on most of those subjects. So during the Q2 reporting period from July to September, there was 5 subjects in the rural area. Checks on those shown that most were compliant, some subjects were removed, and some were added. So during the reporting period, 15 checks were conducted and all were compliant. With regards to the Airdrie Crime Reduction Unit, unfortunately, due to some of the policing demands on the front line, we had to redeploy them over the summer months to support shortages. We are looking at standing that team back up here come January. So that's some good news as the vacancies that we're experiencing are getting filled on the front line. And just for your awareness, in September, they did assist with a blitz at the mall, Rocky View County area. They keep us quite busy in a 3-day project. 18 subjects were arrested, numerous thefts and breach charges. Approximately 5,000 stolen merchandise was recovered, and this project included the cooperation members from the RCMP Crime Response Unit in Edmonton and the loss prevention officers at the mall. With regards to community engagement, I know Constable Hall is quite busy, and he's very much enjoying his new post here in Crossfield, so that's good news. He's assured me tonight that he's got things well underway with regards to planning for the Christmas parade and that he'll be involved in events during the month of December. I won't read word for word through this, but if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Priority 3, rural crime, road safety. So with that, we look at violation tickets and impaired driving. So during Q2, 87 traffic enforcement activities included tickets and warnings. With regards to impaired driving, there were 34 impaired driving related investigations. 15 of those investigations resulted in impaired sanctions and or suspensions. And also with the integrated traffic unit, they also operate in the area. They conducted 7 impaired investigations with 6 of those resulting in impaired sanctions. Keeping in mind that that's for all of our rural area, but I'll speak specifically to the Crossfield area here in a sec. And then we have a section in here for community consultations. So some of the events that we were involved in the area. And then last but not least, the provincial service composition talks about the positions that we have filled and the vacancies we have. So of the 16 established positions, 13 officers are currently working with none on special leave. There are 3 hard things with staffing actions ongoing. Internal backfills for 2 vacancies is in place to mitigate falling below minimal staffing level. So I could say with some happiness that on the rural side, we're flush right now. So that's good news for us. I run the rural with regards to I have 4 constables on each watch, 4 watches. So right now they're all full. And then you guys also have Constable Hall here, and he's supplemented by those rural members as well. So I try to encourage the rural members to get out here as much as possible. There was some mentality that Constable Hall being here, he's the only one that does Crossfield. That's not true. So trying to get the other guys out here to patrol the town as well. So if there's any issues with that, please let me know. Like I said, Q2 for Crossfield specifically, July to September. So we looked at 214 calls for service this year. Compared to last year, there were 190 calls during the same period. So around the same numbers of calls for service. To break down some of the more significant calls and some of the more ones that we dealt with in a higher frequency, we'll go through those. And then if you have any questions on specific occurrences, obviously I should be able to comment on some, but may not be able to go into greater detail. So we're looking at during that period of time, there were 3 assault files, 2 assault with a weapon, 5 break and enter into businesses, 2 careless use of firearms, criminal harassment, 6 frauds, 5 mischiefs, 7 impaired investigations in Crossfield with 1 resulting in a suspension, 2 theft overs, 3 theft unders, 2 sexual assaults, 1 sexual interference, 3 theft of vehicles, 2 theft from a motor vehicle, 5 uttering threats, and 1 trafficking of drugs. Other incidents that we responded to during the month included 911 Act, abandoned vehicles, animal calls, assist general public, assist other agencies, breach of peace, sudden deaths, driving complaints, cause disturbance, fail to comply, false alarms, lost and found. There were 11 calls related to mental health, 20 suspicious vehicle calls, and 18 traffic collisions, and 7 well-being checks. Right now on the rural side of the house, I mentioned Project Arrow earlier from crime reduction. We have 4 subjects in the rural. There's none specifically in Crossfield. And then looking at from October 1st till today, so far this quarter in Q3, we have 123 calls for service. Looked at the more significant and more frequent calls that we're attending so far this quarter. And break and enters to businesses seem to be popular, and frauds. So we have 8 break and enters to business, and we're currently have 10 frauds on the books with 5 over 5,000 and 5 under 5,000. Any specific questions about any of that?
Anybody with any questions? Just have one for you.
Okay.
Crossfield comparable to same size municipalities near the QE2. How are our crime stats compared to theirs?
Yeah, I think it's relative. I don't think they're any higher or lower. It's pretty comparable. And I know I look at my other communities, which are quite a bit smaller than Crossfield, and in terms of the crime offenses, it's consistent across those. And yeah, as far as I know, looking at Didsbury and Carstairs and stuff like that, I think calls for service and the type of crimes they're dealing with is the same thing. I find a lot of the break and enters and stuff like that unfortunately spill over from Calgary.
Yeah.
Not that I want to blame Calgary for everything, but they're usually involved. So, and I know Crossfield's been hit a couple times there last year with the same individuals coming out and causing a lot of problems. So, yeah.
Good, thank you. All right, if there's no other discussion or questions, can I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Counselor Knight,
I move that council accept the RCMP Q2 update for information.
okay, is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I don't have the pleasure of seeing you guys before Christmas, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And
Merry Christmas to you too, and drive safe out there.
you as well. Thanks, guys.
Okay, bylaws, item 5.1, bylaw 2025-14, line of credit borrowing bylaw. CFO Amber Roulette.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I have 3 consecutive reports for you, the first of which is the bylaw 2025-14 line of credit borrowing bylaw. So this bylaw provides for the annual renewal of the town's $1.5 million operating line of credit. The purpose of the line of credit is to ensure that the town has sufficient cash flow to meet operational needs throughout the year. Although the town has not needed to draw on this line of credit in previous years, maintaining it is a prudent financial practice that protects against temporary cash flow timing issues. Under this bylaw, the town may borrow up to $1.5 million from ATB Financial, repayable on demand at an interest rate of prime plus 1%. The line of credit will be in effect from January 1st to December 31st, 2026. Because the borrowing term is less than 3 years, Section 256, subsection 3 of the Municipal Government Act confirms that the bylaw does not need to be advertised. So administration recommends that council give all 3 readings to bylaw 2025-14, and I am available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Amber?
The chair,
Go ahead.
when is the last time that we used our line of credit?
Through the chair to Councillor Benson, I do not have any confirmation that it's ever been used, but it's one of those cases where it's better to have it and not need it versus need it and not have it type thing. So it doesn't count against our debt limit or anything like that. It's so long as it's not exercised.
Great, any further questions or discussion? Okay, who would like to make the first motion?
Through the chair,
Deputy Mayor,
I'll move that bylaw 2025-14 line of credit borrowing bylaw be given first reading.
okay, is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion passed. Second reading,
Through the chair,
Counselor Brennan,
move that bylaw 2025-14 line of credit borrowing bylaw be given second reading.
anybody opposed? Motion passed. Third and final reading,
Through the chair,
Counselor Nielsen,
I move that bylaw 2025 line 14 of credit borrowing bylaw be brought forward for third and final reading with unanimous consent.
anybody opposed? And that motion is passed. And the final,
Through the
Okay.
chair,
Counselor Kosh.
I move that bylaw 2025-14 line of credit borrowing bylaw be given third and final reading.
Anybody opposed? Okay, and that one's passed as well. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
So item 5.2, fees and rates bylaw.
Great. So I have before council today bylaw 2025-15, the fees and rates bylaw, which accompanies and supports the town's 2026 operating budget. This bylaw outlines the fees and rates for the town's program services and municipal facilities for the upcoming year. Each year, the fees and rates bylaw is reviewed and updated to ensure our fees remain aligned with the costs of providing services. Council last approved the fees and rates bylaw in May 2025, and this new bylaw will repeal and replace that version in its entirety. The proposed adjustments for 2026 reflect rising operating costs and are designed to ensure we continue delivering high-quality, reliable services across all departments. These changes are also consistent with what we have heard through public engagement. Residents indicated support for moderate fee increases were needed to maintain financial sustainability and protect service levels. So I won't go through every item in detail, but I will highlight a few of the notable updates included in this year's schedule. So under miscellaneous and planning fees, some of the fees have been updated to better reflect administrative effort, including zoning confirmation letters and roadway bin container permits. And several of the fees have been reorganized under planning to better align with where the work occurs. Under FOIP requests, this section has been updated to align with the province's new Access to Information Act legislation, which came into effect in June 2025. Under water and wastewater utility, changes include moving to from bi-monthly to monthly billing with a minimum consumption thresholds adjusted accordingly, a 10% increase to water and wastewater charges driven by increased regional water commission rates, and an additional 3.75% increase to support maintenance of our water infrastructure. So these water and wastewater changes take effect in March of 2026, and the rate increase may vary according to the final rate adjustments as determined by the Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission. Recycling and garbage utility, those rates reflect an adjustment to reflect monthly billing. Under operational services and parks equipment, so equipment rental rates have been updated in line with the Alberta Heavy Construction and Road Builders Rate Guide. FCSS was included in the fees and rates schedule just to support the registered and drop-in programs offered through the town. Sports field fees, ball diamond, soccer field, and pickleball fees have been adjusted slightly to remain competitive within the region. At the Pete Knight Arena, adjustments include a new statutory holiday rental rate, minor increases to ice rentals, and updated dry pad and meeting room rates. At the community center, a number of rates have been updated to reflect increased operating costs, and new fees have been added for parking lot rentals. And finally, in the business license and development permit section, there have been minor increases have been proposed along with a couple new planning related fee categories, such as deck related development permit and a charge related to amendment to development permits. So all of the proposed changes have been incorporated into the 2026 budget and help reduce the overall revenue required from property taxes. They also ensure that user fees remain fair, competitive, and aligned with the actual cost of delivering the service. These fee updates support the town's broader financial sustainability, reduce reliance on taxation, and ensure continued delivery of essential and well-used programs, facilities, and utilities. So administration is recommending that council give all three readings to bylaw 2025-15 fees and rates bylaw. And that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, thanks, Amber. Any questions for CFO Roulette?
Through the chair.
Counselor Knight?
This is probably a bit of a gap. I think that the administration from the Water Commission didn't send out the notification early enough. The increase was 15%, not 10%, so the actual water rate's 2.53, not 2.42. I'm not sure, did you even see an email today? I did ask about that last night. Not from you, but from the Water Commission's administration. So there is a small differential of what the information that were giving. So we knew it was a minimum of 10%, but it did get motioned at 15% for 2.53. So there's a differential on that Water Commission rate test.
Through the chair, so the Water Commission rate increase is effective April 1st. So there's time for us to, once we receive that confirmation from official confirmation, to adjust the rate in advance of when it would come into effect. So that rate increase isn't reflected in the budget or this report, just because of the timing of the preparation of these documents. So,
But then we would have to still bring the fees and rates bylaw back again.
through the chair, yeah, you're correct.
Or could we make the motions to reflect the Water Commission change once we get it?
Through the chair, okay.
I'm just trying to, like, I don't know how many times we need to bring this back just for a small change that we know of, but we just haven't gotten official documentation.
Through the chair, maybe the recommendation is to accept the bylaw with the amended rates that are shared from the commission once they've communicated the rates to us. So then we don't have to bring it back for another 3 readings. I'm looking at Lindsay and she's doing this,
Yes.
so
Yep.
like I think we're okay.
I think that would streamline it a little bit. Okay, and then whatever counselor makes that motion, we can ask for confirmation on how the motion should be read. Yes? Okay. Any further questions?
No.
Okay. I was just pausing, just to make sure that we had some wording, just so you know. Okay, if there's no further questions, who would like to make the first motion?
Through the chair.
Okay, Counselor Nielsen. Lindsay, are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah. Is this line 15 yet? I move that bylaw 2025 line 15 fees and rates bylaw be given first reading with the amended water rates as outlined from the Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission.
Awesome. Is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. And second reading,
Through the chair.
Counselor Knight.
I move the bylaw 2025-15 rates and bylaw to be given second reading with the amended water rates as outlined for the Mountain View Regional Water Commission Services.
Is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. Third and final reading,
Through the chair,
Counselor Brennan.
I move that bylaw 2025-15 fees and rates bylaw be brought forward for third and final reading with the amendments of the water rates as outlined from the Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission with unanimous consent.
Right. Is there anybody opposed? And that one's carried. And the final motion.
To the chair.
Counselor Knight.
I move that bylaw 2025-15 fees and rates bylaw be given third and final reading with the amended water rates as outlined for the Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, and that's motion carried as well. Thanks, Amber. You're getting there. Couple more.
Okay.
All right, item 6, 2026 provisional operating and capital budget.
Okay, thank you very much. So tonight I have before you a report that is requesting provisional adoption of the 2026 operating and capital budgets. So in developing the draft 2026 budget, administration was guided by key budget principles while remaining mindful to several notable factors that shape the process. Over 2 days of deliberations, council reviewed these factors in detail and considered how they interact with the town's long-term financial strategy and service priorities. So key budget factors, inflation and tariffs continue to impact the cost of operations and capital projects, with materials, utilities, fuel, insurance, and contracted services remaining elevated. Staffing and resource limitations were also highlighted as the town relies on a small but dedicated team to deliver high-quality services. Council recognized the importance of maintaining appropriate staffing levels to support service reliability amid a competitive labor market. Aging infrastructure was another significant consideration, requiring careful balancing of maintenance, renewal, and growth-related projects to ensure assets remain safe, functional, and aligned with the town's 10-year capital plan. The 2026 budget prioritized sustaining existing service levels while adjusting fees and rates only when necessary to support long-term sustainability. Infrastructure investments are guided by asset management principles, life cycle costs, and risk management. The budget also strengthens reserve contributions to prepare for future asset replacements and unexpected events. Transparency and accessibility were emphasized, providing council and the community with clear information about cost drivers and resource allocation. Efficiencies and process improvements were incorporated where possible, all while maintaining service quality. Every recommendation was evaluated through the lens of long-term financial sustainability, ensuring the town is positioned to meet current demands and future growth. These deliberations allowed council to balance competing priorities, mitigate cost pressures, and adopt a budget that is both responsible and resilient for the community. This presentation provides an overview of the 2026 operating and capital budgets, including key capital and operating investments and highlights focused on the town's future priorities. We will then review contributions to reserves, emphasizing notable initiatives such as the multi-year police funding strategy designed to smooth tax impacts over time. Finally, we'll touch on the overall impact to residential and non-residential ratepayers and outline administration's recommended motions for council's consideration. So as we look at the breakdown of our operating budget revenues by type, it's important to highlight the guiding objectives behind the development of both our operating and capital plans, and that's financial and operational stability. Financial stability means maintaining a balanced budget, ensuring sustainable revenue streams, and building reserves to manage unforeseen expenses or potential revenue shortfalls. This helps the town remain resilient and prepared for unexpected financial pressures. Operational stability, on the other hand, focuses on the town's ability to consistently deliver essential services, everything from community safety and infrastructure maintenance to parks and community programs, ensuring we maintain a strong, resilient community for residents. Our operating budget is funded through a mix of revenue sources, including property taxes, grants, and user charges. These revenues enable us to provide the full range of services and programs our community relies on. As part of our ongoing commitment to sustainability, we regularly review our fees and rates. For this budget, adjustments were recommended only, as I just previously mentioned, where necessary to support long-term financial sustainability while minimizing impacts on residents. So as far as the operating budget expenses are concerned, inflation continues to influence nearly every area of municipal operations. While it has moderated it from recent highs, the cost of materials, fuel, insurance, and contracted service remains elevated. These pressures impact both day-to-day operations and capital projects, where cost escalations often exceed general inflation trends. More recently, tariffs have also started driving up the cost of goods. Administration will continue to take steps to mitigate the impact of both inflation and tariffs on our operating and capital budgets, but in some cases, it will be inevitably affected. Factoring in these cost pressures, key drivers for the 2026 operating budget include the addition of 3.2 new staff positions to support growing service demands, continued investment in infrastructure guided by asset management priorities, service level adjustments, notably to snow and ice road maintenance, which impact expenses, and historical trend analysis to refine expense estimates and reflect actual experience. While we're also continuing to strengthen our financial reserves with dedicated contributions exceeding draws by nearly $400,000, highlighting our commitment to long-term financial sustainability. These measures ensure we balance operational needs with fiscal responsibility, keeping the town resilient in the face of ongoing cost pressures. So the 2026 capital budget continues to focus on balancing the repair and renewal of existing infrastructure while planning for growth-related projects, ensuring our assets remain safe, functional, and aligned with the town's long-term capital strategy. When we look at the capital budget, roughly 88% is dedicated to maintaining our existing infrastructure, with the remaining 12 invested in creating new assets, supporting the long-term growth and sustainability of our community. So unlike the operating budget, which covers day-to-day services, the capital budget is about building and preserving the town's future. For 2026, the capital budget totals $6,209,850, representing an increase of $2.81 million over the 2025 capital budget. It's a significant year-over-year investment in asset improvement, renewal, replacement, and acquisition. So key investments and operating improvements. This slide highlights some of the key operating and capital investments included in the 2026 budget. So investments in infrastructure. We continue to invest in maintaining and improving our core infrastructure. The Lott Avenue reconstruction and deep utility upgrade is an essential upgrade to a roadway and utilities, while the bulk water station and RV Sandy dump improvements enhance service, safety, and accessibility. The McCaskill Drive reconstruction is to improve safety and functionality of that asset, while the lagoon polishing system design will lay the groundwork for future water treatment solutions. And finally, and under infrastructure, the addition of the Public Works Manager position is to support ongoing operations and project oversight. Investments in public safety. So the Fire Services Master Plan will guide the future of the fire protection services within the town of Crossfield. The Peace Officer dash camera upgrades will be to improve accountability and support enforcement activities. And the addition of the bylaw officer position will support regulatory compliance and community standards within the town. Investment in recreation amenities. Recreational facilities are an important part of the community well-being. The arena door and bleacher accessibility upgrades will improve usability of the facility for our residents. The arena dressing room upgrades will enhance the facility functionality, and the addition of the arena/parks operator 1 position will help to maintain and manage the recreational spaces effectively. Under operating improvements, we've included several initiatives that improve efficiency and service delivery. Better service, smarter water use. So transitioning to monthly utility billing will enhance water management and customer service. Protecting your tax dollars. Credit card payments for property taxes will no longer be accepted, improving cost efficiency and saving approximately $17,000 a year in bank fees. And then under road safety, increased snow clearing levels to level of service to maintain safer roadways during winter conditions. So these investments collectively strengthen infrastructure, public safety, recreation, and operational efficiency, supporting a resilient and sustainable community for the long term. So this slide highlights key initiatives that position the town for long-term success and sustainability. So the 2026 through 2029 strategic plan development. This council will engage in visioning and prioritization to guide decision-making and resource allocation over the next 4 years. This plan will ensure that investments, programs, and services align with council's priorities and community needs. Statutory document renewal. Work is planned to update key statutory documents, including the land use bylaw and infrastructure master plans. These updates ensure planning and infrastructure decisions remain aligned with current and future community growth and needs, and will inform future capital plans as well as the development of off-site levy models. And investment in financial reserves. A $200,000 dedicated transfer is planned to support a future skate park. $75,000 is being set aside to help manage rising policing costs. And overall, the town is contributing nearly $400,000 more to reserves than is being drawn for capital projects, highlighting our continued focus on long-term financial sustainability. So these initiatives demonstrate a forward-looking approach, balancing strategic planning, statutory alignment, and financial resilience to support the town's growth and priorities. Now, what would be a presentation without talking a little bit about reserves? So reserves are the town's savings set aside for special strategic purposes. They're not surplus cash. They exist to protect taxpayers and support long-term planning. So reserves help the town to maintain and replace infrastructure, including roads, water systems, buildings, and equipment, fund future operating and capital needs without relying heavily on borrowing or sudden tax increases, maintain cash flow and financial flexibility to ensure stable operations, cover future liabilities, obligations such as obligations incurred today but paid out at a later date, and stabilize taxation, reducing the risk of sharp increases due to unexpected costs. In short, reserves allow the town to plan proactively rather than reactively, making sure we're prepared for both expected and unexpected financial demands. So proposed contributions to reserves in 2026 are $1,836,538, which is $492,000 more than in 2025. So this strengthens our ability to fund future capital projects and mitigate financial risk. And proposed transfers from reserve equal $1,437,000, not including the externally restricted grants. So why does this matter? Annual reserve contributions should keep pace with the asset deterioration to ensure infrastructure can be replaced when needed. Strong reserves today help us avoid significant borrowing and sudden tax increases in the future. So as you can see in this slide, in the reserve schedule, most of our reserve funds, approximately 5.3 million of them, are restricted specifically for capital purposes. So a new dedicated reserve is proposed in 2026 to help manage the rising costs of policing as the town approaches 5,000 residents, which is expected in 2029. The goal is to smooth the impact on taxpayers and avoid sudden spikes in taxes. To achieve this, a multi-year funding strategy has been implemented, where $75,000 will be set aside in 2026. An additional $75,000 will be added in 2027, bringing the annual total to $150,000. And the following year, an additional $75,000 will be contributed to for a total annual contribution to the reserve of $225,000 in 2028. By the time the population milestone is reached, these funds will be in place to support the increased policing costs. Starting in 2029, there will be no further contributions to the reserve, and the reserve funds will be used to supplement base funding, ensuring the policing service is fully funded without causing a significant tax increase for ratepayers. So this approach allows the town to plan ahead, manage growth responsibly, and maintain financial stability while delivering essential public safety services. So for 2026, the town's revenue requirement will increase by $352,196, which represents a 6.69% overall increase. The budget was developed with a strong focus on managing the shortfall in a way that supports the long-term operational and financial sustainability of the organization. Council also identified revenue adjustments that maintain alignment with the 1.66 to 1 residential to non-residential tax ratio, helping ensure a fair distribution of the tax burden across property classes. The actual impact on each property owner will depend on assessed values. For a typical homeowner with a $450,000 assessment, this translates to an increase of about $11.17 per month. For non-residential properties, the increase is approximately $15.17 per month for every $100,000 of assessed value. This adjustment was recommended only after council and administration worked together to manage expenditures amid community growth, infrastructure renewal needs, and provincial funding uncertainties and ongoing inflationary pressures. We frame this increase as a shared investment in our community. It ensures we can continue delivering essential services, support public safety, and maintain critical infrastructure while positioning the town for sustainable long-term growth. So there are 3 motions included in the report that count for council's consideration. The first being that council approves the 2026 provisional operating budget of $12,138,594, inclusive of transfers to reserves totaling $1,836,538, and that council approves the 2026 capital budget of $6,209,850, and that council approves in principle the 2027 to 2029 forecasted operating budget and the 2027 through 2035 forecasted capital plan. However, in addition to these 3 motions, administration is recommending one further motion, and that is that council establish a policing reserve to help smooth tax impacts as policing costs increase with population growth. So this recommendation aligns with section 2.1 of the reserve of policy C304-25, the reserve policy, which requires council approve the establishment, amendment, and closure of all reserve accounts, as well as for any transfers to or from these accounts. This reserve will support long-term financial planning and help mitigate tax impacts for the town as the town approaches the population threshold that triggers higher policing costs. So
Could you leave that screen up for
I'm
us?
definitely leaving this. That's
you.
why this little nugget up here will stay up here for you guys.
Great.
And that concludes my presentation.
Great presentation. Thanks, Amber. Any questions for Amber? We were all questioned out from when we had our operating and capital budget evenings.
There's no new information. Well, there's a little bit of new information here tonight, but
All right.
thank you for accepting it.
Well, we'll see.
Well, the information that is.
All right. If there's no questions, can I get the first motion, please?
Through the chair,
Councillor Kosh.
I move that council approves the 2026 provisional operating budget of $12,138,594, inclusive of transfers to reserves totaling $1,836,538.
Is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. Motion number 2,
Through the chair,
Councillor Nielsen.
I move that council approves the 2026 capital budget of $209,850.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. And the third motion,
Through the chair.
Deputy Mayor,
I move that council approve in principle the 2027 through 2029 forecasted operating budget and the 2027 through to the 2035 forecasted capital plan.
okay, is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. And the final one on the policing reserve.
Through the chair,
Counselor Knight,
I move that council establish a policing reserve to help smooth tax impacts as policing costs increase with population growth.
is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. Good job,
Excellent.
Amber. Looks like you're done for the night.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7.1, recycling end producer responsibility. Director of Infrastructure and Community Growth, Steve Altina.
I don't have a presentation. Usually have a presentation. Thank you, Mayor Harris. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Steve Altina, Director of Director of Infrastructure and Community Growth, here to present the End Producer Responsibility Program update. So the purpose of this report tonight is to provide council an update on the Recycling End Producer Responsibility Program. I'm going to call it EPR for the rest of the presentation. That's a bit of a mouthful to say. The town has signed agreements with the EPR management company, Circular Materials. I also refer to them as CM, for both residential curbside and transfer site recycling collection. These contracts came into effect on April 1st, 2025 and July 1st, 2025, respectively. And Circular Materials is currently reimbursing the town for recycling collection costs on the curbside and at the transfer site operations. So I guess just a little bit of background for some of the folks that aren't familiar with the EPR system. So basically, EPR is a policy approach implemented by the provincial government. I think Ontario may have kicked it off first, but it's come to Alberta, where essentially producers of recycling products, cardboard and plastics and things like that, are now given significant responsibility for the treatment and disposal of the post-consumer products. So when you recycle, cardboard packaging or recycling packaging, this is now being put back, the costs are being put back onto the producers to deal with these rather than municipalities paying for those recycling costs. So currently products sold in Alberta become waste managed by municipalities once they reach the end of their life. EPR shifts this responsibility back to the producers, thereby reducing the financial burden on municipalities and encouraging producers to design more sustainable products. So right now on our curbside, we're seeing almost near cost recovery on our curbside program through the EPR program. And then we're seeing, we haven't run the numbers quite yet, but some, fairly good recovery on our recycling out of the transfer site. They do not take industrial recycling, commercial, institutional, or industrial recycling, what we would call like ICI type recycling. Either at the transfer site or as curbside product, which we'll discuss a little bit further in the meeting here. The town itself, there's a number of different options that the town was presented with when this programming came into play. We have a recycling provider right now in Blue Planet. That contract ends on April 30th, 2027. When Circular Materials approached the town, we could either opt in, which would actually mean getting rid of our provider and opting into their program where they would manage the entire recycling program for the town, or we could opt out. I got it backwards. We opted in to manage our own program, or we could have opted out of managing our own program to go with Circular Materials and have them manage the program. I think it's backwards, and I get it backwards all the time, so I do apologize. The town chose the opt-in option to continue to manage our own contract with Blue Planet. Obviously, there'll be penalties applied should we have broken our contract with Blue Planet soon. So we have aligned our contract with Circular Materials to end, our contract, Circular Materials for the reimbursement ends at the same time as our Blue Planet contract, and then we move it to a different model, which we'll get into a little bit here. So again, the town has chosen the opt-in option for curbside collection, which allows the town to manage our own curbside collection program under a service agreement with Circular Materials, through which they reimburse the town for recycling costs. The service agreement itself was executed on January 16th of this year and went into effect April 1st. The agreement is extended to April 30th, 2027 to coincide with the end of the town's contract with Blue Planet, who currently provides curbside recycling services. At the end of the agreement, Circular Materials proposes to transition the town to an opt-out model, and that is where Circular Materials would take over all recycling provision in the town. We've discussed this with Circular Materials, and we've identified kind of 3 paths the town could take. So we went back to Circular Materials and said, opt-out is one way we can go. What are the other paths look like for the town, just to provide council some options? So essentially, there's 3 options. There's opt-out. That Circular Materials assumes all responsibilities and costs for the curbside recycling program. It essentially becomes their program, and we are out of the recycling business for the most part. There's a contractor agreement. Circular Materials also offer that if the town wishes to manage its own program under the EPR framework, that it can request to provide service under a contractor agreement with CM. CM will compensate the town as a contractor for the services, but caution that the terms and conditions of this agreement are normally fairly rigorous. So you'll see this agreement with municipalities that operate their own services already, own their own trucks and maybe disposal services and things like that, are perhaps moving to a contractor model because they already own that equipment. We do not own that equipment. We do contract our services out. We could also look into unregistering ourselves from the EPR program, which is being managed through the Alberta Recycling and Management Authority, ARMA. It would not likely be possible to unregister after April 30th, 2027, once you exit a contract with Circular Materials for that period. You're of course stuck with that contract. But if we did unregister from the program, the town would be responsible for all costs related to the curbside recycling collection and disposal. Administration hasn't pursued this option very fully, and we need to engage further with ARMA should that be a direction council would want to go. But those are kind of the 3 options. They opt out, enter a contractor agreement with Circular Materials, or seek to deregister ourselves from the program, and then we would still run our entire own program, but there would be no reimbursement from Circular Materials whatsoever. So we go back to pre-EPR days, and the burden of the cost would be on the residents. In addition to this, the town is also providing curbside recycling to several businesses and other organizations. This isn't compliant with the town's own waste management recycling bylaws, number 2025-02, nor the town's current agreement with Circular Materials and the future opt-out model, which only addresses residential recycling. As such, administration proposes to end the curbside recycling collection after April 30th, 2026 for businesses and organizations, for ICI basically, industrial, commercial, and institutional businesses. And just, to complete the circle, the town has also entered an agreement with CM for residential recycling at the town's transfer site. That agreement was executed on June 13th, went into effect July 1st. They reimbursed us at a fixed rate for our recycling there. We see fairly minimal ICI recycling at the transfer site right now. We get a reasonable amount of residential recycling, a lot of it from the rural areas from the county. The county does provide some funds to the town for operating the transfer site as well. Just some financial implications under the EPR program. The town has been able to reduce the bi-monthly recycling costs for residents from $20 to $7. And moving to the opt-out model, Circular Materials will become responsible for all operational costs related to curbside recycling, and costs to residents for this service would be further reduced. The town will likely still be the first point of contact for questions, at least initially. So there'll still be some administrative time, but essentially, I believe we could nearly eliminate those recycling fees for town residents. In terms of the transition for the ICI recycling, obviously we would need to do a fairly robust communication campaign with the ICI businesses. And we would want to get notices out, I've noted in the report, perhaps early 2026, perhaps even in December, and working on a transition plan about service termination after April 30th, 2026, to businesses and other organizations receiving curbside, and then regular reminders, of course, during the notice period. So in conclusion, the town recommends that council support the transition of the town's curbside recycling collection to the opt-out model until the end of under the end producer responsibility program after April 30th, 2027, and that council directs administration to cease curbside recycling collection for businesses and other organizations within the town in accordance with Section 4 of the Waste Management Recycling Bylaw number 2025-02, reading that recommendation again, perhaps we would like to put a date on that motion with council or other items as council may see fit for that motion. I know that one might generate a little bit of debate about changing that service level for businesses. So that concludes my presentation tonight. I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions for Director Altina?
Through the chair.
Councilor Nielsen?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I'm confused with the opt-in, opt-out. Can you just slowly say that one more time? Like just the options.
To the chair, Councilor Nielsen, for sure. Yeah, the opt-in, opt-out it's strange terminology.
Yeah.
I would have thought an opt-in program would be opt-in with Circuit Materials, and an opt-out would mean we would manage our own, but it's actually the other way around. So
Then is opt-out and opt-out is opt-in.
currently we are under the opted in, which means we have a recycling provider that we already have under contract. And so we are managing that right now, our contract with our recycling provider. And Circuit Materials simply reimburses us for those recycling fees. That's the opt-in model. The opt-out model is that the town does not manage any contracts and Circular Materials manages the contract. So what Circular Materials has done, I guess, just for all of council's information, is they went out to RFP, request for proposal, in September to look for a service provider for areas in Alberta. I believe it's kind of divisional or area based. And then after Christmas here, they'll select a service provider and they'll assign them to an area. So, us and Carstairs and maybe Didsbury and the surrounding communities will all maybe get, one service provider or another. And when we move to the out model, that service provider would then provide service to the community and Circuit Materials would manage the whole program. We'd be generally hands off other than maybe answering some questions, liaising between residents, that kind of stuff. It's a bit of a, yeah. The other options are a contractor agreement where we almost bid with Circular Materials to say, no, we want to keep providing our own service. So please hire us as a contractor to provide our own service. And so they would set a rate at the rate that they're going to pay this other service provider. And they would say, okay, to the town, we're going to pay you the same rate as we're paying the other service provider, but you can provide the service. But then it would be on us to provide that service again. And that rate may or may not cover all of our costs, right? Because we wouldn't see necessarily a bulk purchase or bulk service provided there. The other option would be to deregister ourselves from the entire program and just go on our own and manage our whole program all by ourselves, putting the fees back on the residents to pay for recycling for the recycling program. So those are kind of the three options. The opt-in model is not available to us. Yeah, it would change this contractor agreement, which Circular Materials has cautioned us is fairly rigorous and typically has been applied. Communities have asked for it where they actually own infrastructure. They own trucks. They own that kind of infrastructure to actually deliver it themselves.
But essentially the opt-out option that's proposed has less of an impact financially to our residents than any of the other options.
Yeah, and to the mayor, ideally the opt-out would have a financial benefit to our residents by practically eliminating, recycling costs in the town and placing them back on to the end producers, which is the intent of the entire program.
Because they make money on it anyway.
Because they collect these materials at the recycling depots,
Yeah.
and then they use it for reusable materials, and they sell them at the end of the day, right? So, and it's pushing them to be more responsible to reuse these materials or design packaging differently and things like that. So,
Another question? Hang on. Did you have another question?
Does this include our transfer site as well, or is this a different?
Through the mayor, Councilor Nielsen, yes, our transfer site is included. They're two separate agreements though. One for curbside. We're just talking about the curbside agreement.
Okay.
So the blue bin in front of your house that gets picked up with a mechanical arm once a week. We're just talking about that agreement.
Okay.
The transfer site is a different agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we are reimbursed at a fixed rate for the transfer site for collecting recycling there and then having E360 transport that material to their facility.
Okay, we'll go to Council Benson and then to Council Brennan.
To the chair. So from a resident's point of view, they're not going to see any difference here, correct? It's either going to be another company picking it up, or it's going to be the existing company for a period of time, correct?
Through the chair to Councilor Benson, that's the idea. Residents shouldn't notice a change. 1 week it'll be Blue Planet, and the next week it'll be whoever Circular Materials folks are, and residents shouldn't notice a service change at all.
In addition to that, so the waste management, the black bin, that's totally a different contract, correct?
Through the mayor to Councilor Benson, that's correct. Totally different contract, under different rules, is not part of the EPR program.
And the waste transfer site for the waste would still remain in place.
Through the mayor to Councilor Benson, yes. So at the transfer site, we collect both recycling and waste, waste in a much higher volume, also branches and trees and things like that, paints, hazardous materials, that kind of stuff. None of that changes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brennan.
Through the chair. I stole most of my questions there, Counselor Benson, but I was curious, could you give Steve, there's a chance you could give a better breakdown as far as what size of business gets affected by this? Like, where is the information have to be sent out? What scale are we looking at for that?
Through the mayor to Councilor Brennan, I believe we have close to 30 businesses, mostly the Railway Street businesses in the back there are receiving curbside recycling collection right now. Our bylaw, our waste and recycling management bylaw, actually excludes businesses from receiving waste and recycling services, like door to door like that. So waste services as well. We're asking council to consider the recycling services specifically tonight. And maybe there needs to be some more discussion about the waste services there as well. I think, those businesses aren't onerous on our waste management system and they're fairly small. But for the recycling side of things, now that we have something that's contravening our bylaw and we have something that's contravening our agreement with Circular Materials, we do see a need to start to transition those businesses away from that, particularly but prior to Circular Materials perhaps taking over the system because they just will not pick them up, right?
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair. Councilor Benson kind of touched on it a little bit. Do we have any controls in place? Like, we're going to lose a little bit of control on who is picking up our recycling, Blue Pine. And then CM is going to manage that if we do pass this. Do we have any controls in place that if the service does, the quality of service, I wouldn't say the service, just the quality of service is less than desirable? Do we have something to go back onto CM and say, hey, it's not getting done because you've used this provider at a lower cost, maybe, lower, quality of service, breaking bans, blah, blah, blah,
Surely holding them accountable.
What kind of controls do we have in place? And I guess that's all within the contract that we would sign, correct, with CM?
The mayor, Councilor Gustafson, yes, that'd be within a contract, like a service agreement we'd sign with Circular Materials. We haven't quite got to that point, but that would be all the things we'd be looking for. On the bins themselves, this is a question about who owns the bins after this all happens. The town's invested, as near as we can figure, about $108,000 in recycling bins. And obviously we don't want to see that asset just be transferred without some sort of consideration. So we have been chatting with Circular Materials about that. And what we've been told so far is that the new service providers, once they're brought on board, have typically been buying the bins from the municipalities because they can't they're not going to procure thousands and thousands of bins.
For sure.
It's easier for them just to buy the bins from the municipality. They stay at everyone's house and they just start using those bins as is. Yeah. And we still have to be like for all of council, administration still has many questions to ask Circular Materials. We do have a regular meeting group with Circular Materials. We've recently joined the Southern Alberta Waste and Recycling Management Working Group as well, which includes communities from our size all the way up to Calgary who have very similar questions. So this is very much an iterative process kind of moving forward. Tonight, we wanted to gauge council's intent for a direction so we can start to have more direct conversations with Circular Materials on this. We're not asking you to take the plunge tonight, but we did want some direction on yes, we want to move towards an opt-out model if it makes sense for us. And we can continue to bring back updates and information for council.
I just, through the chair, I just didn't want to say, okay, well, you guys are still having talks, but we're going to make this decision before everything is finalized. So, but if you're you're telling council that there's still more information to come back to us, it just gives you the direction to move down that path.
Yes, to the Mayor, Councilor Gustafson, I actually spoke with Rocky Views waste management folks yesterday, and they very much feel that this process is we're trying to, you know, launch the plane and build it at the same time, kind of thing. So things are moving very fast with circuit materials. We don't have all the answers yet, so this will be something we'll bring back to council. We're not asking for a definitive answer tonight, but we would like to know, perhaps, you know, if council wants to deregister from the program entirely, we should start those conversations probably soon, right? If that's something council wants to do. If council wants to work towards the opt-out model, that's great. That gives us some direction to continue to have those conversations about the opt-out model and continue to bring back information to council on what that looks like.
Any other questions?
Through the chair,
Counselor Kosh.
I kind of have two questions. Is this like a brand new program through CM? And then also clarification on what we're currently doing, just to verify we're in the opt-in program in which we're receiving reimbursements from CM, and instead of doing the waste collection ourselves, we're paying Blue Planet. Is that how that works right now?
Through the mayor to Councillor Kosh, and I apologize, Deputy Mayor Gustafson. I've been saying Councillor Gustafson.
No, it's okay.
I just realized.
Okay.
To Councillor Kosh. So yes, to clarify, we're in the opt-in model. We contract to Blue Planet. They provide the recycling, so they send the truck out once a week. We own the bins. So the town owns the bins, buys the bins, supplies the bins to individual houses once they're built and occupied. And then Blue Planet sends their truck out once a week to collect those bins. That's how our model works. Some municipalities like Calgary own some of their own garbage and recycling trucks, and they'll actually provide their own service to some of their own communities. They're usually a hybrid model of contracted in city. We're not that. We're fully contracted out. The EPR is a relatively new program. I think we started talking about it 2024. But I think it's kind of started in 2023, I believe. But we got involved kind of last year. So yes, fairly new. Still lots of things to iron out as some of these things go. But yeah, we're trying to work through it. So
Through the chair, and so like the fees that do get put back onto the residents of the town, that's basically the difference between what we're reimbursed and what we pay out to Blue Planet.
Through the mayor, Councillor Kosh, that's correct. We don't see 100% cost recovery with the EPR right now. So our costs with Blue Planet are a little bit higher than they're reimbursing us. We also have still administrative costs where we're still taking all the phone calls for broken bins and missed service and that kind of stuff, right? So we still have administrative time that goes into these as well. So we were able to reduce recycling costs by a fair amount, but there's still some administration involvement, and there's still a little bit to make up for on our reimbursement there. So
Great. Any other questions? Okay, the only question I have now is, have the businesses been informed? And if they haven't, is that the plan to move forward right away so that they know and can plan for alternatives?
to the mayor, the businesses have not been informed.
Okay.
We suggested perhaps a change of service date after the end of April, so May 1st, like starting May 1st. That communication could start, next week, basically, if that makes sense to council. Holiday time can be a little difficult. People are away, they can sometimes miss it, but then we can follow up with communication again right away in the new year as well and have regular correspondence. It would be a service level change that council would have to consider. The businesses would need to make another arrangement for recycling, whether they simply throw away their recycling. Dropping off recycling at the transfer site is free, so businesses are always welcome to bring their recycling to the transfer site and drop it off there. It is a free service. They just shove it in the ICI bin there, and then away they go. So it will be a bit of a change for most of the businesses along Railway Street.
Sounds good. And then just a budget question. Did we currently have in the budget purchasing more bins? Sorry, I thought so. So we have that piece of the budget, and then we'll have either somebody buying our bins or potentially renting our bins. So there's some other revenue coming in. What is the proposed use of those budget dollars? Reserves or something else?
So to the mayor, like we still need to supply our own bins up until at least, May 1st, 2027. So we still have another year and a half of supplying our own bins. We have, 99 new lots going to come on board next year with Vista. I'm not sure other subdivisions perhaps as well in Iron Landing or Hawks, depending on what our other developers up to. So we still need to supply ourselves with bins for the next year and a half. So I think it likely maybe might not use that whole budget to purchase bins next year. I think we have a little over 100 bins sitting at the yard right now, but we may need to top up just to make sure that we're fully stocked moving forward. So,
Okay.
or at least we can supply all new houses bins up until April or May 1st, 2027.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Is there any further discussion? Okay. If there's no further discussion, who'd like to make a motion?
You're the chair.
Deputy Mayor.
I'll move that council support the transition of the town's curbside recycling collection to the opt-out model under the end producer responsibility program after April 30th, 2027.
Is there anybody who's opposed? That's motion carried. Thanks for the great information.
Is it-
Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, can we move to motion number 2?
Through the chair.
Councillor Nielsen.
I move that council directs administration to cease curbside recycling collection for businesses and other organizations within the town in accordance with section 4 of the Waste Management and Recycling Bylaw number 2025-02.
Okay. Is there anybody opposed? Also motion carried. Thank you, Director Altina.
Mayor Harris.
Okay, so we have item 8.1. And both Deputy Mayor and I had a discussion, and essentially, as we talked about a little bit last night, there are some areas maybe in some of our plans for land designations and that type of thing that just aren't working. And when we talk about some of the entrances into town, we do have some interest, I think, in people wanting to run businesses there, but our land use designations don't really fit the use. So this notice of motion is really for staff to go out and look at what kind of options do we have in those areas, to have maybe other uses than what there are now. What are the steps that we have to take to do that? And because it is the entrance into town, can we have other uses there but still have some beautification there that the business would pay for, so that it doesn't end up being an eyesore and it's still a little prettier when you come into town. So that's essentially the gist of things. And I think that just as we continue to grow too, that we ensure that these corridors can evolve just in a manner that is economically viable, attractive, and aligned with council's long-term vision. This is increasingly important. So a review of potential strategies will allow administration to assess practical options, whether policy adjustments, planning approaches, or other mechanisms to help support development in these priority locations. The intent of this motion is to ensure council receives a comprehensive set of options that can inform future decision-making and help advance progress in areas that have historically faced development challenges. Is there any discussion you'd like to have?
To the chair.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't the full motion in our package?
It is.
Well, should we have the discussion first? Okay. Hey. So the motion on the table is that council direct administration to bring back potential strategies to support the advancement of development in the downtown and entrance areas, including but not limited to policy options, planning approaches, and implementation considerations.
Through the chair.
Councillor Nielsen.
Are we talking about rezoning? Like which properties are we speaking? of? Like what I'm not. quite
So you know the entrance way into Lout?
Loud.
So
Down for the golf
across the
course?
tracks, and you have, you know, Dairy Queen is there, and then you go
Oh, yes, okay.
to the east,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have Sky Vision and Grey Wolf. And,
Okay, over there, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a few areas there, and then the downtown. We have the whole east side of the downtown that we have to have a look at, and those types of areas. The zoning question. Director Altina is here to answer any of the hard questions.
Thank you, Mayor Harris. To Councilor Nielsen, we'll just pull up the zoning map real quick, just to provide some context to council. Get window back in.
But I think essentially what we have now, it's been in place for quite some time,
Mhm.
for a couple of council terms, like before even our terms, and nothing's moving and nothing's happening.
Are we talking, what about the 2A along the highway there?
Yeah.
By Modus over there? Right, or is that, no, not Modus, the plastic, place, the people that make the
The plastic,
Yeah.
the plastic bins.
Plastic.
No,
Oh,
plastic
that-
fabs on McCool Street.
Oh.
It's promo, yes,
That whole.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think essentially it could be that whole area.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
I can't see it. Oh, boy. Stand by. Yeah.
That's okay. While we're waiting, Deputy Mayor, do you want to add anything?
I just, I do through the chair. Thank you, Mayor. The thing that I would add is, you know, I guess our goal is to get these underdeveloped, you know, lots, lands, give some attraction to, if we're going to do some changes, you know, put some thought into how can we incentivize businesses to come in here and thrive. So that's really the intent is, let's get some buildings on these lots that are underutilized, make it beautiful for when people come into town and want to either do business here, live here, raise their families, you know, that's our real intent.
Right, through the chair, less commercial, more, no, less industrial, more commercial.
It could be,
Could
but
be.
we will see what the options come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be any of those things, but. Director.
Yeah, to the mayor and Councilor Nielsen, maybe all of council, I guess just a little bit of context. I think some of the lands that are being referenced are these C2 lands here along Lot Avenue. So Harvest Grill's here, you know, the hotel's here. You know, these lots are generally, you know, Sky Vision Lumber is here. This has that old liquidation place that, you know, is currently vacant. Blue Wave Energy is here. This one's vacant. This one's vacant. This is where Mobility Cab has been storing their golf carts, but is currently, you know, there's no operations going on there right now. So EBD is the Elevator Business District. So I believe it was back in 2017, the town undertook a project to do an area redevelopment plan. So we talked a little bit about area redevelopment plans last night. They are considered area structure plans, so they're statutory, but typically they're applied to areas that have already seen development at some point. And they're about revitalizing or rejuvenating, you know, older areas of the town that have seen previous development, but could be utilized probably in a better fashion. So the area redevelopment plan covers our EBD lands, our CBD, which is Central Business District, our WBD, which is our West Business District, as well as the C2 lands here. And so the area development plan for the EBD and the C2 district envision these areas as a gateway district into town, which means a higher aesthetic quality when as you enter town, right? Being attractive, warm, and welcoming as people enter town. So these were envisioned as commercial districts. And so, but they were subdivided and developed originally as industrial lots. So there's some size differences that are making it difficult to attract commercial businesses to here. These lots are sized more, typically for their depth for industrial lots. And so some of the landowners, have approached the town administration, I think approached the mayor, concerned that just the way these areas zoned and the way the rules are set up to provide this gateway district is really inhibiting their ability to make use of this land. And I think there's a compromise to find here, where I think the town still probably has an interest in seeing these as a bit of a gateway district with higher level aesthetics, but is there some flexibility in the policy that we could develop for these areas that would help support some of those landowners to move forward with some plans while also achieving the town's objective of having that nice entryway into town? And maybe it's not exactly retail shops and things like that. Sometimes light industrial can be made to look really nice as well if it's carefully, if there's careful policy around it, right? So it's just opening up some of those doors to see what's possible to help support getting businesses started here, because we haven't really seen, I just joined the town last year, but I don't think we've seen anything develop here in the 8 years that their redevelopment plan has been in place, right? So it's maybe not doing its job in stimulating development there. And so there's a document we may need to look at again. We need to look at what the zoning is. We'd like to do a land use bylaw update next year, and perhaps there's flexible zoning that could be implemented for maybe some of these areas that might help stimulate some growth. And I think that's where this is coming from effectively. So
to the chair. So we are talking about looking at zoning, looking at different policies that we currently have and reviewing them. But we're not talking about actually investing or doing anything, correct?
That would be up to whoever wants to buy the
Whoever owns
land
the
or build
property,
on the
correct?
property.
Just so we understand each other, right?
yeah, so to council, I think it's what council would like to see. Certainly, I know there's a lot of head shaking there, and Kinza's shaking her head right now. Municipalities approach it differently, right? I think we have a number of priorities and infrastructure to service existing areas. But you will see some municipalities extend infrastructure and then, work back in developer levies and partner from a financial standpoint. That's an option that may be available to the town. I think our start would be on policy and flexible policy areas and see where that takes us probably first. But this triangle area, it's a bit of a complicated area. The land ownership is fairly fragmented. It's a strange shape, to be honest, for development. We like to develop in rectangles and squares, not in triangles, right? So there's some challenges here, and I think there's probably opportunities to work with developers a bit more. Servicing extensions are always a huge part of and cost for developing these areas, and extending servicing can promote development, but the town would also need to be sure that it recovers its costs and things like that. So, I know there was a lot of head shaking. It could be a part of it. It could also not be a part of it. If the council says that's off the table, we want to just focus on policy improvements here too, right? So I think going forward, we're going to talk to council more and more about economic development strategy as well. I know we would like to get that kind of going again in 2026. And we'll continue to chat with council on that. And so that likes a holistic approach about, community economic development touches on a lot of things in the community, right? So.
To the chair. So that one property there where the golf carts were, that was a property that historically the drainage is really poor. And that may be an issue there, but I don't think it's up to the landowner to actually fix that, not to the town to provide those services, unless they could be fully recovered.
Yeah, and through the mayor to Councillor Benson, typically the idea is development pays for development.
Right.
Right. And so, and council can decide at what level that looks like, but the typical idea is development pays for development, right? This lot is important because all the stormwater drainage runs along its south side and then to the railway ditch. That's also connects into our East Area Structure Plan as well, right? So there's some regional connections that need to be made through this lot as well. But yes, that's certainly the idea is development pays for development. So
Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair, I think the overall goal is how can we be creative and working with our developers to make it easier for them to develop those areas, not whether who pays for it or how we fix the drainage or anything like that. It's how administration and council and the developers can work together to get some businesses or whatever, how we can get these developed and not sit empty.
Right, and I think that's the goal, is to fill in the empty spaces that we have.
Mhm.
Just to have a sustainable town. And for administration to bring back viable options for us to choose from, to move forward. Any other questions? Excellent. Yeah, and I think the goal is, fill in the spaces. Ensure that, people who want to develop here know that we're open for business. And that they can work with us to come out with a solution that meets our bylaws and policies, even if we have to maybe update them at times.
yeah, if I may, to the mayor and all of council, these policies, they're meant to be somewhat living documents. They're meant to be revisited, and it's part of the implementation and monitoring period, right? And we revisit it every 5 to 10 years, typically for a statutory plan, and we say, is it working? And maybe we see something that's not working, and we can go back and open it up. So it's not an unusual position to go back and do something like this.
And we talked a little bit about that session last night.
Mhm.
If it's not working,
Yeah.
maybe we should make some changes. Yeah. Excellent.
Mhm.
If there's no further comments or questions, would somebody like to make a motion?
You're the chair.
Councillor Knight.
I move the council direct administration to bring back potential strategies to support the advancement of development in the downtown and entrance areas, including but not limiting to policy options, planning approaches, and implementation considerations.
Okay, is there anybody opposed? Great. That's motion carried. Thank you to council for supporting that. Thank you, Director Altina. And we'll move on to councilor's business. Item number 9. I've attended the CEO weekly meetings. CEO Barney and Director Altina and I met with Minister Schultz just to ensure that our wastewater pilot project can move forward, and to ensure that they would support our request to the Minister of Transportation for funding for through the grant for the wastewater. Of course, Minister Schultz was on board and is happy to help in any way she can. And her and our MLA, Tara Sawyer, will be providing letters of support to Minister of Transportation for a grant to support the wastewater. So that's what that meeting was about. I attended Twinkle Fest, made my ornament, sat with Santa. Apparently I've been good this year, believe it or not. So no coal this year. And then I went to the tea and bake sale at the United Church, bought some treats for my husband, and sat and had conversations with some seniors and had tea with them, and it's kind of fun. I attended the planning session last night. I met with a grade 6 teacher. Every year I go to the grade 6 classes. They do part of their social studies. It's their municipal governance. And I chat with I think there's 41 grade 6 students this year. So 2 classes. And in December or in January, I'll go and chat with them again. And we have good banter back and forth. And I answer all their tough questions, and then I ask them some. So it's quite fun. This year, the teacher asked if we could do something more interactive with them. And so I chatted with CEO Barney and the teacher, and we thought it would be pretty fun if the 2 grade 6 classes did mock elections, and they elected their own councils for one council for each class, and a CAO, so that they had the full realm. And it would be neat if they sat up here and we each had a little grade 6 counselor sitting beside us, and we can help and coach them during a council meeting to make a motion or ask a question or those things. And then the rest of the class can do a presentation to council on something that's municipal, on maybe something that they want to see. I thought that'd be great, not only for the students, but for council as well, to interact with the youth and help teach them about municipal governments, and know that, there are other options out there for these students, like becoming a CAO or, a staff member for municipality, or if they really want, to get into municipal politics, even, at any age. Yeah, so there's that. And then I know that CEO Barney has some thoughts too on providing them maybe before council, a little mock council meeting that they could do as well. And then we've also offered that the grade 6s can maybe come on the council tour with us to the different buildings and assets that the city has. So I don't know if they've answered us on that yet, but we have the question out there to see if they want to partake. All right, I was at both the operating and capital budget nights and deliberations. I met with one of the home builders, and I also met with a resident not met with, but had a phone call messaging from a resident on the snow removal. Their concern was that the trucks started earlier than the 7 a.m. because we had passed that bylaw previous. I think that the reasons that we wanted to make that motion was not only for, the biggest reason was for safety. So not only safety of residents, safety of our operators, and the ability for them to get some of those key heavy traffic areas done before people wake up, where there's no traffic on the road. It helps the equipment from, the flow from stopping and starting and that type of thing. And then it becomes more efficient for the town to get some of those roadways done. So those are the reasons why I think we made those decisions before. One of her concerns was that, how did residents know? Well, we have open streamed council meetings that you can watch live, or you can follow up and watch them on afterwards by streaming. But it does give us some reflection on, are there some things that we can do to get some of these key pieces out to residents once we make decisions? And we're leaving that up to administration to find out, how can we tweak that so that we can always keep improving how we relay messages out. And that's it for me. Deputy Mayor.
I also attended the operating and capital budget discussions 2 weeks back, and that is it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Benson.
Yes, thank you very much. I also attended those 2 meetings as well. I was also involved in the Rocky View Foundation for my first meeting. There's actually 7 new board members out of 8 elected this year. One person actually has been on the board prior, so he's back as well, and he's now the chairman. His name is Kevin Hansen. So anyways, it was an interesting meeting. There was a lot of discussion and a lot of the orientation around, what the purpose is, and for everybody's benefit. It's the Rocky View Foundation is affordable housing for seniors and other people that can't afford housing. And they operate in all the communities around us, including Bicycle, Irricana, Airdrie, Langdon, Cochrane. So all the areas. And there were representatives from all the place. And it was really interesting to kind of be able to talk to them. I was also appointed the financial officer for them to be able to review the financial statements. So actually their financial statements are very similar to the financial statements I've looked at for many years. So I was actually happy to do that. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to the participation in the Rocky View Foundation.
Great, thanks, Councillor Benson. Councillor Brennan.
Actually, just wanted to add to Mayor's snow clearing thing. I watched them that morning and it was pretty cool to see. They were very swift, super efficient looking. It was really cool to see. Guilty though, I had to move my truck last minute. I was like, that's part of why I got to watch. But I attended the planning sessions as well, and operating and capital budgets. And then on the 22nd, I had a Marigold Library More meeting. And in August last year, the board approved moving to municipal affairs population figures from April 1st of the preceding year. This affects the Schedule C levy rates. So 2027, $6.92 per capita, or a 17-cent increase. 2028, 7.09 per capita, 18% increase. And following up on a review of the agreement, there were minor updates made to better align policies to match with the services offered. Beyond that, standards and services policy, some minor changes. Plan of service is undergoing a review and is planning to update. This is expected to be a 1-year process, starting with a survey sent out to member libraries to just gather some input as far as how to make that process better. That's it from me.
Thank you.
I don't have that package yet. We'll be sending it out, so it couldn't be attached. It will be.
Oh, thanks for forwarding it on
Yeah, eventually.
once you receive it.
Yeah.
Great. Councillor Kosh.
So I attended my first water commission meeting with Councillor Knight in Innisfil. Super cool. See where water comes from. I did full day of training for the subdivision appeal board. It was fun. I attended the budget deliberations, attended the planning 101 last night, and worked at casino for the Crossfield hockey. Never done it before. It was not as terrible as I thought working at casino would be. So that's me.
Great, thank you. Councillor Knight.
I attended the operating budget committee meetings, planning meetings. We held our organizational meeting on November 21st for the Mountain View Regional Water Commission with Councillor Kosh. Came and attended it. It was nice. I'm thankful and proud to say that I'm back on as the chairman again for that water commission for the next year. So that's exciting and scary, which is great. A few things that we did go over. I did try to upload the minutes into the scribe thing, but we'll go over that after. It didn't seem to say at the date, but our main thing that we did other than the organizational part is we did set the water rate. Water rate did go up 15% from 2.20 per cubic meter to 2.53 per cubic meter. We actually built our first package and justification notification that kind of came out to all the councils and meetings, which is kind of neat. What that came out of that, we kind of talked about the reasons why that increase had to occur. Record number of leaks, rising costs across all sectors, preparation for critical infrastructure, limited borrowing capacity, and provincial guidance on rate competitiveness, long-term sustainability. We were to compare ourselves to like the Aqua 7, which is like Knee Hill, Rocky View, which is by Skirlin and close to us. They're 462 a cubic meter, so we're quite considerably less than what they are, which is good. Just some numbers for the residents. City of Calgary's cubic meter rate's 1.45, but they also produce 200 million cubic meters. You know, Red Deer does 1.95. They do 18 million cubic meters. So the fact that we do 3 million cubic meters, we're pretty competitive overall in the whole thing. And the one thing that we did talk about kind of at the end of that whole thing, we talk about bottled water, right? Like a cubic meter of a bottle of water, when you buy a 1 liter bottle of water, it's $1,500 per cubic meter. So if you think about the number of water volume that we get for the rate that we get, it's pretty massively incredible. So I do believe there's some projects, including trying to get 30 days sustainable ability for water in the raw water ponds. We have to get another twinning line between Didsbury and Holes. A few other small changes that have to happen. So there's lots of things that have to happen in the next 3 years that or 4 years we'll be around on the Water Commission. So it's exciting, but yeah, the rate did go up. It's a tough thing to do, but I don't think their commission had a choice. That was probably the least the commission could chose to get to. It's kind of unfortunate, but we have to prepare ourselves for water's the most important thing to all our communities. We got to make sure we have it. So
Great, thanks, Counselor Nate. Counselor Nielsen.
I went to the mural craft on Saturday. There was a few people there. Got my ask in with Santa though, so that was good. And I
talked
also
to Santa about that.
I also went to the ATB. I'm just gonna put a shout out to the ATB for, they're doing the sponsor of the senior program. You don't have to pick up a tag from their tree. If you're just gonna spot, it's kind of like Operation Shoebox, but for seniors. Everything has to be submitted before December the 15th. But if you want to just buy one gift, you take the tag from the tree and then you bring the tag back with the gift. And that's the same before December the 15th. So anybody who wants to do that, that's a good little thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, who'd like to make a motion?
Through the chair,
Counselor Brennan,
move that counselor business be accepted as presented.
anybody opposed? That's motion carried. Item number 10.1, administration verbal update, CEO Bernie.
Thank you, Mayor Harris. I'll just touch on a couple of items that might be of interest to the community. The outdoor rink that is currently in progress at Amory Park, it is advancing. The project is advancing. We'll continue to provide weekly updates to the community via our social media platforms. Weather permitting, we are hoping to have ice in the rink from mid-December. But I do want to note for the community that we do require temperatures to be below -10 for preferably a week before we can commence ice making. So we'll continue to monitor the weather as well there. On the wastewater management side, an application for funding has been submitted to the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership. Administration also continues to meet with our regional stakeholders on this project so that they are fully aware of where we're moving on this specific project and the direction that we're going in. The mayor had already alluded to a meeting we had, myself, the mayor and Director Altina with Minister Schultz, MLA Tara Sawyer, and Alberta Environment representatives on the project as well. Twinkle Fest will be held on December 5th here. The event will feature sleigh rides, s'mores at the campfire, and of course, the special visit from Santa. I think he'll be back around again on Friday. There'll also be the special mural unveiling that Councillor Nielsen had referenced at 6:30 that evening, and the event starts at 6 and goes to 8 p.m. at Banta Park. It also coincides with the Crossfield Chamber of Commerce Bows on Business on Railway that evening. So if you're looking to get in some holiday shopping in between sleigh rides, that's probably a fun one to check out as well. The Crossfield Fire Department Santa Parade will be held on December 12th. It will start at 7 p.m. So members from our fire department, along with their families, will be handing out candy canes along the parade route. And maybe stay tuned to the town's Facebook page for the exact route of the parade. We'll make sure that's communicated to the community as well. And that concludes the highlights for me.
Great. So just a couple of things on that. Just on that Santa parade with the fire department. I was part of that once, and I just want to ensure that council can have an opportunity to join them in some capacity. So if we can get an invite for that for a calendar to see if anybody wants to participate. Obviously, I'm Mrs. Claus and Luke's the elf, and we'll find positions for the rest of council.
You've been told.
Anyhow, on to just the outdoor rink. When is it going to be finished?
To the mayor, I don't have an exact date, but we are pushing him. We've we've told them that we want to start installing ice on December 15th. So that's the date that we've put to them. Checking in on them daily, pushing to get things moving. So
And further to that, what do we have to hold him accountable to do the work by December 15th?
sure.
I'll just add to Director Nash's comment, the conversations that we've had with the contractor on this specific project is that administration needs to see a acceptable level of advancement on the project by this Friday. Barring what we believe to be an acceptable level that we believe will see the project completed in time for us to have the ice in, then we will be proactively on our end calling in the resources to be able to expedite the completion of the project. Prior to this point, there were some very, I guess, more technical pieces of the project that it was harder for us to be able to pull in some of those additional resources to facilitate that because of the type of work that had to be done. We're confident that we're at a more acceptable level in the project right now where some of those things can be advanced through alternate means if we need to. But we've been very clear that the project must be completed by those dates in order to facilitate the addition of ice. We're very fortunate right now, I guess we could call it fortunate or not, in that we have warmer weather.
Oh, we
so even
did.
if it was, and there is more in the forecast, even if it was ready, we would not be in a position today to add ice to the surface because the weather's and the
Well,
forecast.
and
is
that's fine,
projecting-
but
yeah.
that's kind of beside the point. In the contract, was there an end date for completion of the work?
To the mayor, there was not a specific end date in the contract itself. It was an oversight on administration's part. The contract stated that it needed to be completed per the RFP and the proposal that was submitted based on the timelines provided in the proposal. So that's how it was worded.
I thought the end date was the end of October, but that's what we were told as a council.
The October date was what was provided in the RFP. That's where that date
Oh.
came from. So that's how it was referenced. Learning from that, we've updated our contract to make sure that that is not overlooked again moving forward.
Yeah, there's always learnings, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that update. That's all I had. Any questions from council? Great. Who'd like to make a motion?
Through the chair,
Councillor Kosh,
I move that the administration verbal update be accepted as presented.
anybody opposed? That's motion carried. And CEO Barney again with the outstanding action items list, item 10.2.
Thank you, Mayor Harris. So there's two items that we've marked as complete on this list, item 075 and 074. Administration would request the deletion of those, and all other items on the list remain as they stand today.
Questions for CEO Barney? Okay, no questions. Who would like to make a motion?
Through the chair. I move that items 074 and 075 be removed from the outstanding actions list.
Okay, is there anybody opposed? That's motion carried. Which brings us to adjournment. Who would like to make that motion?
To the chair,
Councillor Knight.
I move the council meeting adjourn at 7:49 PM.
Awesome, thank you.